To begin right now. So we are recording, we are live. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everyone so I don't get any dogs barking, babies crying. So if someone could send me a chat, just let me know you can still hear me after I muted everyone. And then we will go ahead and dive right in here today. So someone send me a chat. Can you still hear me after I muted? Thank you, Heidi. All right. Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. This is Chris Zach. Hopefully you guys attended the last training 2 weeks ago where we covered a lot of the basics with conversion. If you didn't, we did record that last session as well. So I'll send out the YouTube link again to Michelle and she can disperse to the class. And then, as I mentioned today, this call is being recorded. So if you have to hop off early for whatever reason, you get a call from $1 million cash buyer, I get it. But yeah, otherwise today we're going to step it up a little bit. So we covered a lot of the basics, as I mentioned. Today, we're going to get into some of the fun stuff within conversion. And that's really kind of the making the money part. Generating a lead is great, but you don't get paid on leads, right? You get paid when someone signs on the dotted line. So with internet leads, it's a beast. It's not easy to convert internet leads. I'd love to lie to you and say that it is if you just follow this formula. But having kind of a mentality going into it and knowing how to use conversion to generate convert an internet lead makes a huge, huge difference. So before we do dive in, I want to recap real quick and really give anyone the option to ask any questions. So if you guys could, I gave you some homework 2 weeks ago. That homework was to set all of your leads up on new listings via email and also make sure that you adjusted the status of a lot of your leads from a lead over to a client. So does anyone have any questions in regards to what we covered last time? Any feedback, comments, concerns? Otherwise, if I remember right, Willie, you were one of my guinea pigs, I believe. And let's see how Willie did. I know he was going through some stuff, but let's take a look at some of his activity. So it looks like you're starting to get some activity. You had zero, but
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Willie.
I'm not a good choice right now. I still haven't got to that.
Okay. So Willie, we won't talk about that. I won't play mean bus driver. Anyone else? Did anyone else have the chance to really, really dive into conversion in the last 2 weeks? Anyone want to be my guinea pig today? Bueller, anyone? Anyone want to raise their hand, send a chat? Otherwise, we're going to be awkward and just sit here. But no, today I'm actually going to help you and try and convert one of your leads into a conversation. So I don't know if that gives you more motivation, but I can make you money today for free. Anyone? Send me a message if I can be, or you can be my guinea pig today. Anyone?
I'm gonna take anything I can get. So if you want to open me back up.
All right. Let's use Willie.
I don't know how helpful it'll be, but go for it.
Let's take a look, Willie. Let's see if I can. So you got 58 leads. Yeah, you've got some activity here. Let me just look at one other thing and then, yeah, I can work with this. Awesome. All right. And Kendra, you chimed in. I appreciate it. Kendra, we'll log into your dashboard as well, just because you raised your hand. All right, so let's talk about this today. So I want to remind you guys, and I would encourage you once again to make sure you get into your KV dashboard and set everyone up on listing alerts. Once again, how you do that, and I promise we'll dive in here in just a sec, make sure everyone's got this little envelope next to their name. If they don't have the envelope, then that means they're not set up for listing alerts. So Willie, for example, he only has 2 leads that don't. The other thing that you can do is over here on the left-hand side in your leads, you can see who doesn't have alerts. Now, this is the big reason why you want to have people set up on listing alerts. And that is because when they start to come into the website and they're starting to generate some activity, it's good to know what they're looking at, right? We could sit all day and create the perfect script and try and reach out to specific leads. But if we don't really know what they're interested in, it kind of makes your job difficult, right? It's like you have to have this conversation of like, okay, Willie, I have no idea what you're looking for. Tell me more about your situation. So having listing alerts allows the system and you to go in and really kind of identify, these red flags. So last time we went over, how to set up the system and do some of the basics. But now let's get in and actually take a look at, okay, I went through, I made all my calls, everyone set up on listing alerts. Now what? How do I start making money? So what I would do if I were you guys is obviously get into your dashboard. And as I went over last time, we could go ahead and just pick what conversion considers one of your hottest leads. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to pick this lead, Penny. Penny sounds nice. And so what I did is I clicked in Penny's profile, and right here in this profile, I'm going to take a look and read this Cliff Notes. So 75 properties, mostly pending in Stafford, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath for around 320. She first signed up last September, was active this month. The best time to reach Penny is between 9 and 10, which is great. So if you're calling this lead, that's the time you want to call them. If you're texting this lead, that's the time. Now, Penny didn't raise her hand in teleconversion. Hey, Willie, call me in between 9 and 10 a.m. Eastern. This is the system knowing that this is the time that when Penny most frequently logs on. So it's like every day she gets to work, her boss comes into her office, she rolls her eyes at him, and then she jumps on her email and she starts looking at houses. I don't know if that's the real scenario, but bear with me here in this example. So now that we got her in front of us, a couple things I wanted to point out. One, mostly pending, which is interesting. The other thing too is price point. We know she's interested in Stafford. She's looked at 75 properties. That's fantastic behavior. And then 320 for a price point. So what that should tell Willie is he's got a buyer who actually kind of knows what they're looking for. Now, here's a question for you as an agent, and this is where you as the area expert, you're going to chime in for me. So Willie, I'm going to, if you could unmute yourself again, Willie, and I'm going to ask you a question about this because you raised your hand. Okay. So why do you think a lot of these properties are pending in Stafford? And this isn't a trick question. It's more of just like giving you an example. So why are these properties pending?
Price and location.
Price and location. So what does that mean? They're selling like hotcakes right now?
Yeah. I think.
And so what is it?
The Penny is under contract. We're waiting for it to close. So we got that many properties compared to what's in Stafford. I think that's a good selling point. Okay.
So that's good. So a few things you brought up, this is, it kind of sounds like we found the sweet spot maybe for Stafford. Now, me as a consumer, I'm from out of the area, so I don't have a clue on Stafford the way that you do, Willie. Right. So with that being said, how could you educate me about all these properties? What are some steps that you could do as an agent to educate me about Stafford?
I can send her info on Stafford, like what's happening in Stafford.
Talk to me about the real estate side of it, though.
Talking about the real estate side of it. Well, she's already looking at the prices. I can do price and comparables, different styles of houses. I could talk about communities and what they offer. I could talk about travel time, Stafford. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with all of it being said, you're basically right now what you're doing, I don't know if you realize this, but you're educating me on this, right? You're educating me on the specific market. I don't know why I typed in Philly County. I meant to type in Stafford, the city of Stafford. There we go. And 3-bedroom, and let's do from like 300 to 350. So here's what I'm getting at with this. And I promise I'm going somewhere with this here, guys. But you as an agent, you have to educate consumers. And there's ways that you can add value within the system. So right now, there's 32 properties on the market. So what I would do if I were you as an agent is I would take a look at how long listings are staying on the market in Stafford. If a majority of the properties that this lead's looking at are pending, that tells me one of two things. One, there's just a bunch of killer deals and they're flying off the shelf. Or two, maybe this particular, market you need to be a little more aggressive in your search, Penny. And what I mean by that is average time on the market right now for homes in your price point in Stafford are 20 days. What that means to you, Willie, is that if you find a house that you want or you like, realistically in 3 weeks, it might not be on there. And there's ways and there's things that you can do within the system to educate people on that. So on your website, you'll notice if you scroll to the very, very bottom, you've got all these what are called areas we serve. And so you'll see these here at the bottom. And I think we want to customize these a little bit. But what's cool is, let's just say I chose this particular area. And you can pull this up on your website as well. I'm just going to pick the first one I clicked on. But you'll see average price is $391 in Richmond County. Average taxes, average square footage. You've got all this information about, you know, price reduced. There's no open houses. There's only one foreclosure. All of this is available for me right now on your particular conversion website. So you have the ability to do that. So here's where all of this ties in. So when you start to get leads that are, you know, actively searching, or you got someone like Penny, what I'm getting at is you want to talk to leads specifically about what they're interested in, nothing else. So I'm going to say that again. Don't reach out to an internet lead just to say hi and say, hey, Penny, do you have any questions? If I'm you, Willie, I'm going to reach out to Penny and I'm going to talk to her only about what she's interested in. You know exactly what she's looking for because conversion's telling you that. So there's a strategy and a method that I like to teach that I've been teaching for the last 12 years when it comes to converting internet leads. And it's a few different things. Michele, you and I went over this last week. But the first piece of this is, let's take a look at what type of internet leads that you're actually getting, because you need to approach all of these leads completely differently. And what do I mean by that? Let's say you come to me and Willie, you hand me one of your friends and you refer him to me and say, hey, Chris, meet Johnny. Johnny and I went to high school together. He's been my friend for 20 years. Take good care of him. Are you going to talk to me differently as a lead than you would someone who came from Zillow? And Willie, that's a question for you.
Yes.
Why are you going to do that? Just humor me.
Because I have a relationship with them.
So why do agents not treat every single internet lead source differently? Meaning, why do you treat the same lead that came from Zillow the same way that you do a Facebook lead or a Google lead? And so this is a mentality I constantly, harp on my agents, is you've got to look at these leads completely differently. So if I'm a personal referral, if I'm a lead from Zillow, if I'm a lead from Realtor.com, has anyone here on this training, has anyone ever closed a Zillow lead other than Michele? Anyone?
Yes, I have.
You have. All right. Can you? Who's talking right now?
Wanda.
Wanda. All right. So Wanda, tell me about that Zillow lead. How long did it take you to actually convert that Zillow lead?
Actually, it was very quick.
Very quick. Like what? Under 60 days? 90 days?
Yes, it was during the winter, and we just kind of corresponded, and they were going to wait until the summer to purchase, and then I sent them a listing that met their needs, and so we went and looked at it one day when everything was closed because of the snow, and then they put in an offer.
That's awesome. So that's a quick and dirty transaction. I love that. Lisa T, are you on this call?
I am.
Lisa, you've closed a Zillow lead.
Several, yes.
Several. Talk to me about that process. How long was that buying process for the Zillow leads?
I would say probably 75% of the time I have them under contract, probably within 2 weeks.
So did everyone just hear that?
Yeah.
Both of these ladies just shared with me these Zillow leads. They're a little more hot to trot, right? And so you'll notice this first thing I share is typically these leads are going to purchase within 90 days. After 90 days, when you talk to a Zillow lead, if you do, typically they're going to tell you, hey, I already bought a house or I'm working with an agent. Now, here's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Has anyone on this call closed a Facebook lead?
I have, but not with the conversion team.
It's okay. So who's sharing that right now?
Lisa Thompson, Lisa T.
Lisa T. All right. So Lisa T, talk to me about that Facebook lead. How long of a buying process was that? Was it a different approach?
We mostly communicated via Facebook Messenger in the beginning, once I could get them to, open up and trust me. And I would say that was probably maybe a 4-month process.
Okay. And you just said something that was critical, which is the trust factor. Why did you have to get them to trust you?
Well, because, they're just scrolling on Facebook and, and they're like, oh, look, that's a nice house. They may not necessarily be thinking about buying a house. Whereas with Zillow, they're asking for more information. They're asking, to speak with an agent.
So right there, you just identified that you're treating these Zillow leads differently than Facebook. You realize there's way more intent with Zillow than there is with Facebook.
Absolutely.
And so I really want everyone on this call to kind of think about that. So this isn't just a marketing guy in San Diego who's hyper on coffee, telling you that this stuff's happening. This is real life. Agents are out there converting and closing these internet leads. But if you approach a Zillow lead the same way that you do a Facebook lead, you're going to fail. And I'm not saying you as an agent are horrible, but you're going to fail because you're either going to come at me too aggressive when I'm a Facebook lead and I'm 18 months out, or with Zillow, you're going to be way too relaxed and you contact me 12 months after I registered. I'm sorry, Lisa, I've lived in this house already 6 months, So thank you for chiming in there though, ladies. So what I'm getting at here, and this is kind of a breakdown, is Zillow leads, typically these buyers are heavily motivated. They're going to purchase within 1 to 90 days, as these ladies, kind of reiterated. Google leads, and by the way, cost per lead for Zillow is typically $70 to $100 for a lead. Most agents can't afford, a $2,000 marketing budget, even though they know Zillow works. And I have some agents on this call, probably as I say the Z word, they're throwing up at their desk. That's irrelevant though. Agents are converting and closing these leads. With Google, typically $12 to $17 cost per lead. Typically these buyers are a little further along in their search and they're going to purchase within 30 days to 6 months. Then you've got your other bucket. I call them Realtor.com and Trulia. Typically these leads, they're definitely motivated as well, and they're going to purchase within 6 months. I have some agents that swear by Realtor.com and say, no, Chris, I actually agree. I think it's a lot more soon than that. And I have some agents that say, well, yeah, kind of, it's a little bit different. And then this last bucket, which is really my bread and butter for a lot of my agents right now, is Facebook leads. $2 to $6 cost per lead. So if you think about that, and most agents, when I ask them, hey, would you rather get 100 leads or would you rather get 1 lead? Almost every single time I ask that question, agents say, well, obviously I'd get 100 leads. Okay, well, you're going to get hung up on 95 times, and people tell you they never registered. Do you have some thick skin? Do you have the capacity to call these leads as much as you need to? Then it becomes a different conversation. Every agent wants that. I call them a unicorn lead, right? That lead who's ready to go, who's pre-qualified. All you have to do is, drive them to the house to sign on the contract. That's not realistic with internet leads. And I know that's a very kind of big exaggeration I'm giving you, but I think it's important to kind of analyze these leads differently. So typically with Facebook, they're at the beginning of their search. You've got to work these leads completely different than any of these other lead sources. The other thing I mentioned is calling them isn't as effective as texting. So texting, and then I also put in Facebook messages there, which Lisa shared with me. She sends Facebook messages. That's brilliant. I'd encourage you, if you're working with a Facebook lead, that they're on Facebook. So Facebook Messenger is a great way to communicate with them. And then putting new listings in front of them as often as possible and not giving up on them. One number I want to share with you about this is I was reading a study the other day. 18 times. 18, 1-8. That's the number of times you have to contact an internet lead prior to them responding. So if you're an agent and you're getting a new lead and you're calling them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times and you're surprised that you haven't gotten in touch with them, keep going. You've got a couple more attempts to reach that, which I think that's incredibly a powerful thing to kind of know. You're one step closer, you're one phone call closer to them actually answering or responding back to your text. So that's kind of the big thing. I whipped the road jackhammer here. Hopefully what you guys are taking away is you're sitting on a bunch of eggs. Some eggs only take a month to hatch. Some take 18 months. Don't be the agent that sits on a bunch of eggs and you get out the jackhammer. We all know a realtor who's either too lazy or too aggressive, right? There's probably one, don't raise your hand now if that's you, but it is something that it's very important to kind of pay attention to. So any other questions, comments, concerns anyone wants to share with that?
I got a question.
I have an answer. Talk to me, Goose.
Okay, what's too aggressive and what's considered lazy?
Oh, I love that question. I've never had an agent ask me that question, Willie. Who wants to answer that question for me? Lisa, can I pick on you since I know you've converted a couple of these?
Sure. I think, well, obviously being lazy would be never following up with the lead at all, or following up, the first couple of days and then, forgetting to reach out, once every 30 days. I think being too aggressive is if a lead tells you, that they're just kind of looking right now and they're not quite sure when they're going to be ready to buy. I think, continuously, pounding them with phone calls and text messages is just you're going to annoy them, and when they're ready, they're going to use somebody else.
Okay.
Yep. I love that answer. The only thing I would really add to that is kind of a best practice a lot of my agents use. Anytime they get a new lead, they'll call that lead 10 times in the first 2 weeks. And then after that, they kind of take it a case-by-case scenario, typically once a month at least. But the other thing to keep in mind is know that the system conversion is going to be sending them drip email and drip text messages. So even if you're not calling them every day, Willie, just know that the system's also sending them listings, it's sending them text, it's sending them emails. But it's going to be different for every single lead source as well. With Zillow, being a little more aggressive means, not calling them 10 times in one day, but maybe you try them once in the morning and once at night the first couple of days, But feel it out, whatever works for you and your market. Every area and every lead source is different. So that's a great question. Any other questions before I move on here a little bit?
Hello?
All right. One last stat I'll share with you that I've put together over the last couple of years. I have agents that are converting 20% of Zillow leads. I actually think this number is it should be a little bit higher. So what that means is if you generate 10 Zillow leads, you should be getting 2 contracts out of that. Now, that doesn't mean you sign up for Zillow today and there's 2 contracts in there right now, but it means hopefully over the next 90 days, there's 2 contracts in there. Realtor.com, Trulia, typically converting about 15 to 20%. So if you get 100 leads, there should be 15 to 20 contracts in there. Google, you're about a 4 to 7% rate. So if I generate you 100 Google leads, there should be 4 to 7 contracts in there. And then Facebook, right around 2 to 4%. I was just talking with one of my clients yesterday, and he's in Northern California, and he's been on board with me for about 3 months, and he's already converted 5 transactions. Now, I was speaking with Trisha the other day, and I told her, and she joked with me as well and says, Chris, that's not normal. That's not normal. But I have agents that are converting, and the big reason why is not because I'm generating the Disneyland of leads. It's 100% on that agent. It's the agent knows how to close. So when they get on the phone with someone and someone says, hey, I'm not interested, they know how to overcome that objection. So just really kind of think about that, when you're calling these leads. The other 2 points I like to make. Why aren't people more receptive? I don't know if anyone's been at Starbucks or at the grocery store and you get into a small talk with someone and they ask you that question, hey, what do you do for a living? When you tell people you're a real estate agent, do they typically fall out of their chair and they're really excited and like, they just met Jesus? Or what is people's response typically when they meet you? Willie, I'll start with you.
Usually their first response is, really, is that what you do? And then they notice my name tag on my shirt.
Yeah.
it's like magically it appears. But the general response, if they're interested, is warm. But if they're not, they usually just try to get away from me.
Yep. And I understand, the region of the country that you guys are in is a little bit different as well. So this is, in the South, for example, I have some clients that, Chris, people love talking. People love talking to me about my industry. But overall, the big reason why people aren't more receptive is because real estate agents have this view of them kind of like a used car salesman. And that's nothing against you, but if you look at every single year, these results that come out as least trusted professions, you and used car salesmen, for whatever reason, continue to fight over that spot. So when you're picking up the phone and calling someone, that's the exact same way that you feel when you're walking onto a used car lot and you got a sales guy coming up to you. So just think about that. And that's nothing personal to any of you, but just know you're kind of up against that. So when you're calling leads, you should be expecting to get hit in the face really quick with, oh, I don't want to talk to you. They're going to say whatever they want. And they know if they tell you the certain things that you're going to hang up or you're going to get off the phone or you're going to let them go. So just understand you're up against that. Another example is when you go to the mall, you walk into a store and you're going in there to buy something. So if I go to Foot Locker today and I'm going in to buy a black pair of Nikes, I'm going to get a sales guy that comes up to me and says, hey, welcome to Foot Locker. Can I help you with anything? What's my natural instinct every single time?
No, I'm
just looking.
It's
human nature. Yep. No one likes to be sold. So just keep that in mind. And I know we're kind of getting into like the sales part of this, but I think this is really important when you're talking to people. So what is an internet lead? I always like to define this with my clients. And to me, an internet lead is an opportunity to have a conversation. That's it. An internet lead is an opportunity to have a conversation. So you need to know how to have a conversation, right? You need to know how to add value. So some principles that I've been teaching over the years are what I call the easy A's method. So it's basically on 3 A's. So the first one is add value. The second one is ask a question. And the third one is assume the sale. Now I'm going to send you guys this document. So if you want to take notes, feel free, but I'm also going to send this over to you as well via email. So let's talk about this. Add value. So I'm going to get to Kendra. Kendra, can you unmute your phone, Kendra? Actually, I just unmuted you. So Kendra, I should be able to hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So Kendra, you're my guinea pig now. So I'm a lead. I'm on your website. I just looked at a house 15 times. How do you add value to me?
Well, when I talk to you, I let you know about the area that you're looking in, as much as I can find out, what the price point is, like you said, how long the things stay on the market, what the sort of market feel is right now. Just sort of feel them out, see where they're at.
So how would you add value to me? You knew I looked at a house 15 times. So let me just pick one of your leads and I'm going to put you on the spot here. And I want you to add value to me as an internet lead. And if this is awkward, that's very, very normal. A lot of agents, this is not something typically that they do. So don't feel bad. There's no wrong answer here. So Dirk Jones, 447 properties, single family in Fredericksburg, 4-bedroom, 3-bath for around $425. He's active this week. Best time to reach him is from 5 to 6. What do you say to Dirk to add value?
Well, on this particular person, he's not qualified, so that's why we haven't. Just keep looking.
All right, so take that off the table. Just pretend here.
Well, he's obviously ready to go, but I would just, I don't know what I would do with him. I guess I would go take him to look at houses if he was qualified, obviously. Just talk about Fredericksburg. He's probably looking around at newer homes in Fredericksburg if they're at $425. So I don't know what I do with him.
Okay. And anyone else want to chime in here? Feel free to unmute yourself. How would you add value to a lead like Dirk Jones? And this is a tricky question. So as I mentioned, there's no wrong answer here. How would you add value?
I have an approach. Okay. Well, obviously she knows he doesn't qualify, so I would probably just get him a call and let him know that, hey, I noticed that you're looking at quite a few properties, so obviously we know what you're looking for. Let's talk about how to get you qualified and put you on some kind of schedule. Put you in touch with my lenders. Let's put you in touch with my lenders and work on getting you qualified. Once you're qualified, then we can go pick up one of them homes that you keep looking at.
I love that. So Willie, I'm going to ask you a question on that. And that's a phenomenal response, because you're right there. You're kind of extending the hand out and saying, hey, let me help you, Chris. So if I'm not pre-qualified, how can you as a real estate agent help me get pre-qualified? What steps do I need to do typically, or what barriers are there with people who aren't qualified?
Well, I'll ask them some general questions like, do we know what his last credit score is? Or, do we have any idea, or who's having the income, what's total income you have coming in, or, have you filed bankruptcy or anything like that? But basically, I said, let's get in front of one of my lenders, and I'll be there with you. And let's see if, we know you don't qualify, or if we don't know that you have qualified. How do you know that?
I love that.
Let's just get in front of one of the lenders and just have a general conversation and see where we at, and then that'll be a springboard. And we'll just follow up. We'll have a plan. I'll follow up with you or on a monthly basis, and we'll get you into that home.
I love that. And so this is something that I think, Willie, you took the reins and you provided a service to me. And I think a lot of agents, when they run into these objections, they're kind of at a loss for words. So it's kind of like on to the next lead. So let me pretend I'm Dirk, and this is the type of email I think you should send to Dirk, especially if you know he's not pre-qualified. Hey, Dirk, I've been really thinking a lot about your scenario, and I want to help. So what I did is I reached out to one of my lenders, and he's got this down payment assistance program. It's 0 money down. You've got to have a credit score of 630 to qualify, and it's up to this price point. Have you checked your credit lately? If not, I love using this website, freeannualcreditreport.com. Let me know if you have any specific questions, or if you want me to get you in touch with my lender to talk about this program. Right there, you just took a service that you know is out there and you added value to me. You educated me on it. The other thing too is typically people don't know what they don't know. So if I'm a first-time home buyer, I don't know anything. Right now in San Diego, I pay $3,000 a month in rent. And I saw an ad the other day that made me fall out of my chair. And it was an ad that said, if you're paying $3,000 a month in rent, here's are all homes that have the exact same payment in that price point. I love that, because it made me realize, what am I doing renting? I didn't realize that I could pay, buy a house here in San Diego for that same price, even though I did. So people, the more and more that you educate them, you'll be baffled with how people start to open up. The other thing too is with finances, and I think most people can relate to it, it's an awkward conversation, right? It's not something like, I'm sure Dirk's not wearing a name tag and says, hey, I have money and credit issues, right? He's not wearing a billboard on his back walking around bragging about that. So add value. And these are some great ways to do it. Now, let me give you guys some other little nuggets here of ways to add value. All right, so these are some different questions that you as an agent, I like you guys to know. So are they ready? Are they ready to go look now? So if they're a local buyer, here's a little message that you can send to them. Hey, Willie, I'm lining up the hottest homes on the market to go view this week. Did you have a time or date in mind when you wanted to get inside some of these homes so I can gain access for you, right? But you're going to get a response back to that if they're not ready to go look at property, or they're just going to ignore you. So the other one is, are they willing? You know, are you willing to make an offer on a house if they like? So Willie, you were talking to me about Stafford and how all these houses I was looking at were pending. You could ask that same exact question, but educating them as well. So we could say something here. Hey, Willie, I noticed you've looked at a lot of houses in Stafford. Just so you know, average time on the market in Stafford right now is 21 days. So with that being said, are you packaged to buy? If you find the right house, I'd hate for you to see that house go because it's going to come off the market in the next 20 days. So do you want me to send you information about getting pre-qualified, or are you a cash buyer? You know, you're asking all of like these conditions, if you will, with these leads. The other one is, are they able? You know, are they packaged to buy? Are they already pre-qualified? How do you ask that question without asking that question? You know, and I just gave you guys an example a couple minutes ago. You know, I just talked to my lender, and he's got a down payment assistance program that requires zero money down. Do you want me to get you more information on this program? What you just did is you asked me if I'm pre-qualified, right? You asked me that same exact question, but you said it in kind of a less salesy way, if you will. So those are great questions. And then the other thing to just keep in mind is there's conditions, right? Especially right now, graduation time. There might be a condition. Why haven't they sold their home? Maybe it's not because you didn't have the perfect script when you called them, but they're waiting for little Timmy to graduate high school, and he is today. So they're thinking about it this summer before Timmy goes off to college. So think about all these different kind of factors as you're adding value. A lot of times people, you have to kind of pull it out of them. But adding value, there's a lot of different questions. The other thing, let me pull this up real quick. The other thing I would do if I were you is I would have like a go-to list of questions. And these are loaded questions. Once again, I am going to share this document with you guys, but take a look at some of these questions that are on this document. Top 20 questions to ask your active leads. Hey, Willie, what are the top 3 features you need in a house? Do you want me to send you a list of open houses this weekend in a specific area? So this is going to more kind of apply for people who you don't know a lot of information about. And these are kind of conversation starters. So if you're ever on an awkward conversation, you know, on the phone with one of your leads and you're kind of like, I don't know where to go, have these as kind of like your 1-2 go-to punchlines. And so I'll send this over. But these are all questions that'll get people talking. The other thing, as I mentioned at the beginning of this call, is never ever talk to an internet lead unless it's about something they're interested in. Now, I'm a proud father of 3. And what I've noticed about parents is parents love talking about their kids. And the big reason why is because we're obsessed with them, right? But the other reason why is people like talking about stuff that they're interested in. So if you come up to me and you talk to me about my kids and say, hey, Chris, I saw your kid just had a birthday. Tell me about Grayson. Oh, Grayson, he's my little pretty boy. He's got really long hair. He looks like a little California boy. He wants to have long hair like his dad. You know, like you've got all these, like, I'll talk for days. So when you start to talk to people about what they're interested in and you ask them questions about it, people are way more likely to respond. A good question to ask me that, you know, will get me to shut up real quick is, hey, Chris, I'd love to get on Facebook and talk with you about politics. If you want to get silence from me and guarantee a no response from me, that's the question you ask. And I give you that extreme example because a lot of agents will just, you know, reach out to a lead and say, hey, Willie, you have any questions about your search? You've given me nothing, right? You haven't given me any value. That's why you're not getting a lot of responses. But when you talk to me about the houses that I'm looking in and you're talking to me about what I'm interested in, now you've got my attention. So add value. I'm a big fan of that. So the other thing we've already kind of covered, which is ask a question. What questions do you ask? So I've given you guys a lot of questions that you guys can obviously use and steal. Does anyone have, Kendra, do you have a good example of a good question that you ask that typically gets people talking?
Well, the one is like your first question. What are the main things you need in a house? They'll give me usually a humongous list of things that, you know, that they need generally.
Love that.
Yeah.
Lisa, what about you? Do you have any questions that are like your go-tos?
Generally, like if it's a Zillow lead or something, I get them talking, and I ask them, if they're moving to our area or if they're already living in the Fredericksburg area. If I'm trying to stall them, I try and listen to the background. Like if I hear a dog barking, I'll ask them what kind of dog they have, because I got a bunch of dogs. Same with the kids. If I hear kids in the background, I'll be, I'll ask them about their kids and get them talking just to kind of buy myself some time to pull up whatever it is that they're calling in about.
That's great. So you're paying attention to anything that'll give you something to build rapport on. I love that.
Exactly. And
yep.
Like if they're military, I start talking about, my dad was in, now my son is in, and, and just trying to get them to trust me and let them know that, that I am listening to them and I'm going to look out for their best interests, because you got to build that trust or they're not going to ever answer the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one big thing a lot of agents forget is, and this is going to sound stupid, but bear with me, but you don't need to actually sell a home. The big thing that you're selling is trust. Once you get them to trust you, they're going to find a home, whether you help them or whether they're on 30 websites. So the big thing that you got to get them to do is trust. Once you have that trust earned, then it'll really open up that conversation. Any other specific questions anyone wants to share? But otherwise, I love some of these responses. Anyone else have a good one? Michelle has one. Why are you moving? You work in the area. These are two really, really good questions. So why are you moving? What happened? Did you job relocation? Do you need to upgrade, downgrade? Are you selling your home? What's going on? Do you work in the area? I think that's a big one for you guys, especially with like the commuters. So that's a great question to ask. Any other questions? Feel free to send them via chat. I really, really love this type of engagement though. So let's get back to this. Last one here is assume the sale. Assume the sale. This is when I started cold calling right out of college. I was selling real estate agent websites, AKA my dream job. But one sales strategy I learned from, I don't know, a Tony Robbins seminar or, one of the 300 sales trainings they made me go to was assume the sale. Assume that you're going to work with me. And I love that. If you assume that you're going to work with me, it becomes really, really awkward. And what I mean by that is if you assume that you're going to work with a buyer that you're on the phone with, it's going to have a completely different mentality to the whole conversation. And a lot of agents, they're kind of afraid to assume the sale. But it's something that a lot of agents, what I've noticed, and one of my least favorite questions to ask, or that I hear real estate agents ask is, are you working with an agent? I hate that question. And here's why. The big reason why I hate that question, are you working with an agent, is because you're giving people an out. What people realize is that if they say yes, I'm working with a real estate agent, guess what happens to you, Willie? You go bye-bye. I know that you're never going to call me again because you don't want to work with someone like that. People are smart. You guys get sold all the time on the phone by people telling you that. Now, what I've also noticed is that if you assume that you're working with me and people are really working with an agent, they'll gladly raise their hand and say, hey, Willie, I appreciate it, but I actually am working with another agent. I was just using your website. Has anyone ever got that response from a lead? Anyone? Bueller? Yeah, great. Yeah, it's a very, very common response. So assume that you're going to work with me. And so here's an email I love sending. Let me just write this out here at the bottom. All right, so here is the email. So here's my specific example, right? So we noticed that this particular lead looked at a house 15 times. So this is an example I gave for one of my agents I was training the other day in Rochester, Michigan. So, and this is going to implement adding value, ask a question, and assume the sale. So this is kind of a template that you can use for all of your leads. So, hey, Ben, I wanted to put a specific house on your radar, AKA the house you looked at 15 times. And right here, I would make this a link for them to actually view that property on conversion. And so here's what I did. When I did research on this home, I found out it is in a kid-friendly neighborhood known for its schools. It is in a cul-de-sac with a park within walking distance. Also, I noticed that the seller has reduced the price of this home 4 times, over $70K in total price drops. What this means to you is that it's a motivated seller. If you put in an offer, odds are they're willing to negotiate. And now here's the assume the sale and ask a question. So do you want me to do more research, AKA I'm going to keep working for you? Do you want me to do more research on this home or any other homes you're interested in? I'm depending on your feedback to ensure I'm sending you the right houses. So that's kind of like the Jerry Maguire example, right? Help me help you. You're reaching out and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing all this work. Now, as you guys have probably found out, I'm an analogies guy. So if I'm at Foot Locker and I've got little Timmy, right? Everyone knows who Timmy is at Foot Locker, right? He's that 16-year-old kid, awkward, has braces. He comes out and he starts bringing you shoes. Now, after about the 10th or 11th pair of shoes he brings out to you, if you're not really interested in buying, what's going to happen? my guilty conscience is going to take over, right? And I'm going to say, hey, Timmy, I have this really weird obsession with Michael Jordan shoes. My wife's in the food court. She's on her 4th pretzel. And so I'm just kind of bored. I'm not really interested in purchasing. Now, has anyone ever got a response via email or via text message that people have kind of like their guilty conscience has taken over, where a lead will send you a message and say, hey, Willie, I really appreciate you sending me all these emails and texts and calls, but I'm actually relocating from San Diego. I'm a military. And so, you know, I appreciate you doing everything, but, you know, it looks like I'm not going to be getting relocated there for another year. Does anyone get those type of responses from your leads where they start to come out and tell you their life story?
I got one.
I guess
you
got one. Talk to me about it.
That's on that hottest leads.
Yep.
He literally like texted me one day. He's like, thanks for sending me all these houses, but I just like looking at houses and I'm not actually looking right now. But I'd like to stay on your, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. So when he comes up, I just sort of, okay, he's just looking.
Yeah, you shake your head and nod. You know?
Yeah.
But people, they have a guilty conscience. When you're going above and beyond and you're doing all this research for leads, you'll typically notice people will start to respond back to you. And so this example I gave you guys via email, anytime I do this training, I always kind of hear this like, oh, Chris, this is great, but it's also a lot of work. I don't recommend you do this for every single lead, but I do recommend you do it for your leads, maybe that conversions, you know, they've called your hottest leads. And so if I'm taking a look here at the hottest leads, I would probably, if I were you, Kendra, I would go through this list and see, I'd probably start with this, either Sheila or, you know, Rachel, one of the more higher up in price point leads. But I would recommend doing this with 2 leads every single day. 2 leads, that's it. Where you add value, you ask a question, and you assume the sale. Add value, ask a question, assume the sale. And if you do that, you guys will be blown away with all of a sudden how people start talking. Now, here's the really, really fun part of the training, which is, hey, Chris, all of this is great, but I don't have the free time to go and spend all day in conversion. So here's where the conversion training comes in. But real quick, I want to pause. Anyone else have any like questions, comments, concerns, any feedback from any of you as far as how this is sitting with you? All right. I always take the awkward silence as a good thing. So here's the next piece. So Chris, you've showed me how to add value. I've got a little more education on, you know, what's going on with some of these leads. So Kendra, can I send out a mass text message for you to like 50 of your leads?
Sure.
All right. So let's go ahead. And I'm going to actually pick leads that are not searching. So I logged in, clicked on leads here, and then I'm going to click on people who are not searching. What that means is they haven't been to the site in at least 90 days. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and check this little box. Lead has a valid phone number, and it shows me all of the leads that have a phone number here. And I know that because it has the little telephone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and this is a message I've been using that's killing it right now with responses. And it's, do you want me to send you any text when new properties come on the market or change your search at all? So Kendra, this is the text that we're going to send out to 50 of your leads who haven't been to the site in 90 days.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and filter, and I'm going to go ahead and check this little box. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here. And you're going to notice I can do a mass email or I can do a mass text message. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit text. And you guys should notice this little pop-up. I don't know. Can you guys see that little pop-up on a screen share or no?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this little pop-up comes up, and then I'm just going to simply copy and paste that message I just shared with you. So do you want me to text you when new properties come on the market or change your search at all? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to give it about maybe 10 seconds, and do not click away when you do this step. So I don't know if you guys can see on my browser, but it's sending right now. And then I get this yellow box. Okay, text had been sent out. So that was it. So I just reached out to 50 of Kendra's leads that have not been in the system. So what I would recommend doing is, if I were you, I would start doing mass text messages to your leads. I wouldn't recommend obviously doing it every single day, but it depends on the number of leads that you have. Good times and good days to do mass text messages, typically between the hours of actually right now, between like kind of 11 and 1, or between 3 and 6 p.m. And this is all your time. So during people's lunch break, like 11 to 1, or between 3 and 6 p.m. when people get off work, you know, they just got done having dinner, they're checking all their messages from the day. But usually these are good times. The other thing I recommend doing is avoid Sundays. And then Saturday, it really doesn't matter the time. Saturdays typically get a good response regardless of the time, what I've noticed. So here's what's going to happen for Kendra is Kendra's going to start to get some responses back from this mass text message. And so what she could simply do is she could log into her dashboard. Now, all these mass texts are going to go back to her cell phone. And I did this with Michele. I don't know. When did we do this, Michele? Like 2 weeks ago? But Michelle's been doing mass text messaging for the last couple of weeks. And I want you guys to just look at all of these mass texts. Thank you, Michele. Look at all these responses Michele has gotten via text message. So if we just take a look, these are all responses to her text messages. And Michele, I don't know if you have any update on that one mass text that we did like 2 weeks ago, but I'm pretty sure you said that you got a pre-qualified buyer out of it from doing a mass text message. So for a cash deal, it would need to be under $75,000. Not an investor, but have paid cash for it. So there's some good conversations tomorrow at 2. Looks like you're setting up an appointment actually with Tom Rogers. So I love that. But yeah, what you can do, get back into Kendra. Kendra, have you gotten any responses to that yet?
Yeah, just one no thanks.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So no thanks.
And I got another one, buddy.
All right, you've gotten 2 responses already, which is amazing. So these are people who Kendra is basically, you know, just not paying probably much attention to because they're not coming back to the site. So what we just asked is, do you want me to text you every single day? And this lead's simply saying no thanks. This lead didn't say take me off your list or no, I'm no longer looking to buy. She's just telling her, hey, Kendra, I don't want you to text me every day. So this is what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go and take a look at some of the alerts that we have set up. Where's this zip code?
Stafford.
Okay, so she's looking in Stafford. And so I would go and take a look at her alerts. And feel free to stop me, Kendra, if any of these listing types don't apply in your market. But single-family condo townhouses.
Why would you put contingent or pending on there?
All right, let's get those out.
Yeah.
And then her price point. She hasn't looked at any listings yet. And she's been on the site for over almost a year. Let me take a look at the notes and where this lead came in from. Okay, so this was a Realtor.com lead. And I know that because it says Realtor.com. and she was interested in this one specific house. So aside from that, we don't really know a lot about this lead. There's a Google Plus profile. It looks like there's a Twitter profile for this lead. And so let's get into this. And I'm going to actually change this to no minimum, no maximum, because she only looked at one house, which was that one house on realtor.com. And then what I'm going to do is set her up on listing alerts daily. Now, we covered this last time, so that's why I'm kind of doing this quickly. Any other areas I should send her aside from Stafford?
I don't know if there's only one zip code in Stafford, so I would change it from zip code to the city instead of the zip code.
There's 2 zip codes in Stafford.
22556.
Okay, that's great.
225.
Yeah, so let's just do the Stafford city.
22554.
Okay. So the city of Stafford will cover both of those. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to hit update. Now, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to send her a text message back and say, okay, not a problem. I've got you set up for new listings via email in Stafford. Is there anything in particular you are needing in your new home? Pools, schools, location. And I'm just going to try and start a conversation with this lead. And so I'm going to send that over to her, even though she told me she didn't want to receive text messages every single day with new listings. It doesn't mean that she's not willing to have a conversation via text, because obviously she responded. So we could go into the dashboard and we could just take a look at any other texts that have come through. They're going to go to your cell phone and then they're going to come into the system. But the point of the matter is, guys, is when you start to engage with these leads and you ask the right questions, you'll be amazed that people start talking. The other thing is, think about the ways that you're communicating with your leads, and you've got to get creative. It's 2019. If you work with any millennials and any first-time home buyers and you're trying to call them to death, do not be surprised you're not going to get a millennial on the phone. However, if you send them a text message, if you send them a Facebook message, if you go on Instagram and send them a direct message, or they call them DMs, or you go into their LinkedIn profile, if you can start to get creative and try and communicate with your leads in other ways, you'll notice people are a little more receptive. I was having a conversation with an ISA the other day, which is an inside sales associate, and she was telling me how she's had to get more creative.
I lost your video.
We lost audio.
Can you guys still hear me?
Oh, now I do.
All right, sorry about that. I accidentally muted my phone. So I don't know where I left off there, but no, the point is, if you reach out to your leads in other forms of communications, whether it's text message, whether it's Facebook Messenger, whether it's Instagram and sending a direct message, whether it's LinkedIn, get creative. You know, don't just assume that you pick up the phone and you call them, you text them, you email them, that's it. Because as Lisa shared a little while ago, she had to earn trust via Facebook Messenger. It might not be comfortable for you, but that doesn't matter. This isn't about you and you being comfortable. It's about you servicing your clients. And you're going to have to, you know, kind of adapt with the times, if you will, and get creative with reaching out to your leads. But when you do, you'll be amazed with how a lot of these leads are actually willing to communicate with you. So